Thank you for tuning in to Leadership Level Up. I'm Brian Prairie.
And I'm Dr. Jeff Williamson.
I am just starting my leadership journey.
And I've been guiding leaders for 30 years.
Our podcast aims to shine a spotlight on outstanding leaders and provide a platform for them to describe their leadership journey and share the guiding principles that have helped them become great leaders.
On today's podcast, we're joined by Aaron Clark, community leader, pastor, and mentor. Welcome to the Leadership Level Up podcast. I'm Jeff Williamson. This is my co-host, Brian Prairie. And we are joined today by our friend and neighbor, colleague, and whatever you call, all of the above, Aaron Clark. Aaron has served in a number of roles with Youth for Christ here in the community in this county area, and also Kankakee schools, the high school level primarily, and then an organization we'll talk a little bit as we go along called Kankakee Forgives. So welcome, Aaron. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we always enjoy our conversations. We're just going to record this one. You know, that's the fun thing.
Right.
Yeah. So, as you know, with the podcast, we're always interested in learning together about leaders and leadership. And so one of the things we always like to ask our guests is, you know, who are some leaders or what were some type of leaders that influenced you early on to be the person and become the leader that you're still becoming?
Yeah. So I would say going back to my early childhood, there was Pastor William Howard Copeland.
Mm-hmm. Was that here in Kankakee where you grew up here?
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was James Hudson. He was a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. But he definitely influenced me. There was Mike Samuels, who, when I became a teenager, he was like, "You guys are not running the streets."
Okay, come with me. You're going to do something else.
Yeah. So, like, you want to be in something. Mm-hmm. He created something for us to be in, and I always saw that as like he saw a need and he created an answer for it. So, that was a great form of leadership. And I would say, Pastor Wayne C. Thompson down in Atlanta.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning him in the past.
Yeah, very significant role in my life as a young family man, very young family, played a big role in my life. Mm-hmm. Then there are people that I never met, but just gleaned from the wisdom. So there would be Dr. Robert Woodson and Martin Luther King and some of the people who were activists, right down to Malcolm X and Louis Farrakhan, just looking at some of the things that they were passionate about. So
look, listen, and learn. It sounds like was what you're describing.
Yep. So, and more recently, it would probably be Apostle Sam Jones, who is now local. So So you grew up in Kankakee, and eventually landed in Atlanta. Was that after high school, I believe? Yep, right after high school, I went down to Atlanta, started a family. That's where I met my wife at, and I just loved the South. So the South drew me, just the hospitality. I was not used to the hospitality.
Right.
So the first time I went to Atlanta, I go downtown 5 Points. Get off the train, walk into the middle of downtown, people just kind of scurrying around and someone spoke to me. And that's what I did. They were like, "Yeah, we're talking to you." I was like, "Oh, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to be."
Friendly people who don't really know me.
Yeah.
What concept?
Yeah. So stayed there. I stayed in Atlanta where I got a lot of mentoring from Pastor Wayne C. Thompson. He was very big on go do work.
Okay.
So
take action.
So,
you have heeded that well, I would say.
Heeded that. Yeah. So I call him every now and then to let him know I'm still working. So
fighting the good fight, sir.
It's never done.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep. So got a family, and that was great.
Yeah. So how old were you when you moved back with your wife and your family? When did you come back to the Kankakee area?
I was 35.
Okay.
2005. So
been a couple of years.
Well, a couple of years. A couple of years.
Yep.
So I was happy to come back.
Yeah. What drew you?
What brought you back? Yeah.
Well, so I would say calling.
Okay.
This is not the place that I saw myself raising my children or living this many years as I have, but I just felt a strong compelling that it's time for you to go to Kankakee, and I did, and I'm glad.
We are too.
We are as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you came back to Kankakee as a young man, 35, I think you said, what were some of the things that drew you? You mentioned sense of calling. And within that, the things that you did when you came back to say, okay, I'm moving back to my hometown on purpose. A sense of calling is there. What were some things that you started to do to act out on that sense of calling?
So I'm driving into town.
Okay.
I got a big 20-foot Penske truck with a trailer, with a van, packed to the gills.
Okay.
Get off the highway. First thing I see when I get off the highway to 312, I see City Life, Youth for Christ.
Right.
I'm like, what is this? So I'm like, I'm gonna pull up in there, honey. And she was like, no. I was like,
Just keep it moving straight ahead.
Right?
I've driven those rigs.
I said 5 minutes. She was like, 5 minutes. So I walk into this building and it is packed with kids. And when I walked in, the first, I could see the need. It was like, are you here for us? And then the second need that I saw was the few people that were there leading. Okay. And I said, I'm coming back.
Yeah. Honey, I'm home.
You're right. Yeah. I said, I will be back here and I'm going to work with these kids. So
I like it.
That's where
literally
I started.
The first pull off of the interstate.
Yep. I saw the need and I went back and yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah. And not surprising though.
No, but I didn't know that piece. I've known you a long time, but I didn't know that specific piece that you literally were pulling back into town from Atlanta, and there you have spent a lot of time and a lot of years since that return to Kankakee.
Yeah, I have. And just a little bit of background to that. Before I left Atlanta, where I was starting to feel really comfortable and ready to, do some things there, I'd hooked up with a organization called Just Using My Power, JUMP. And we prayed and we wanted this building inside the perimeter and we got all of that. And even then I could see the need that if we don't get the next generation, we're going to lose it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we don't get these young people, we're going to have big problems in the future.
A lot at stake.
Yeah, it's a lot at stake. So I was glad that it was kind of scaled down to a smaller city where you could have more impact because it's fewer people. And it's like, yeah, this is a good fit for me. So
cool.
Yep.
So from there, so you got into town, found Youth for Christ. Lead us a little further. You've driven into town. No.
Yeah. You mean after unpacking the truck?
Yeah, exactly.
No. You parked it and unpacked and you have stayed.
Yep. So the next thing for me to do after that was, who is Youth for Christ?
Okay.
And what are they doing in the community? So I like, before I actually committed to the City Life Center, I actually volunteered with them for 2 years.
Okay.
The first 6 months was just going all around the community. Who is this organization? Who are these people? What's the history? Because I had never heard of Youth for Christ.
I was going to ask you if that was your first exposure, period.
That was the first one.
Wow.
So in the first 6 months, I was just canvassing the area to see what their history was and kind of getting what's the need in the community.
Right.
And then the next probably 18 months, I said, okay, I'm going to volunteer and I want to get into what's going on organizationally.
Man.
Yeah, and let's see. And then after a 2-year period, I was like, okay, let's put the ring on. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I like what you're doing. I like what the mission is. And
that's a really good period of reflection and introspection on your part to say, I want to make sure this is a thing that I can be all in on. And you have been.
Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah.
And what is the mission for Youth for Christ?
Basically, the mission of Youth for Christ is to reach young people everywhere with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
So that's the international mission.
Okay.
The local mission for City Life, which comes under the umbrella of Youth for Christ, is to empower indigenous leaders. So that's what my heart was ringing anyway.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
who's taking over the city? And we need to be concerned about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what it is how do we reach these kids with the gospel, but then how do we empower them with the educational, social, financial, and all of the other life skills that they'll need to incorporate that into their life and our mission to impact them as a leader in the community. And not just impact youth, but it's also families as well.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's where the role of pastor comes in. You know,
Sure.
It's not on Sunday morning. It's like on Thursday
It's
evening
all
when mom
kinds of
steps in. I need you to pray with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do I do?
Yeah.
Sometimes a parent
Yeah.
might be at their wit's end, and they need some wise counsel from someone like you
Yes.
who
Yes.
loves and invests their life in youth and young people, because they are the future. I mean, it sounds cliche, but someday long from now, everybody that's considered a leader in an area community is going to be doing something else or somewhere else.
Yes.
And these young men and women who are our high school students, they're going to be our city council members and our church leaders and our nonprofit leaders and everything.
And our police officers.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm telling you, so like I've been doing it long enough to actually see like that boy is shooting pool right now. He's in the 6th grade, but 10 years goes by just like that.
Yes.
For us, we know how fast that goes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We better do something now. And we're starting to see the parents of kids that we had in the program bringing their children.
Right. So
And
second
like, no,
generation.
you're going to this program. This program changed my
this
life.
helped me in a big way.
Yeah. So that's a really cool thing that's happening
It
just
is.
in the last 3 or 4 years, is seeing so many adults come back as parents.
Right.
Young men saying, Mr. Clark, I got a family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me introduce you to my wife. Or this is my little girl, my little boy.
It's
and,
so cool. Yeah.
And it's like a flash to us, maybe, that they were that kid just hanging out at City Life.
Yeah.
But now they're men, women, and parents and community members. And
And
you've
happy
already
to tell
invested,
you.
and invested in them.
Yeah. I work.
Yeah.
I got a job.
Yes.
I had a young man just stop in the other day just to say, I'm buying my first house.
That's fantastic.
That's cool.
I'm like, where?
Tell me you're sticking around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, don't leave us here. Yeah, stay with us.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need people like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that generational legacy sense of your work has to be really rewarding.
Yeah.
Did you realize that when you were like, you knew you wanted to help people, but did you realize like there was such a ripple effect to like kind of that going out?
No. Brian, I think I really realized it maybe about 8 years ago.
Okay.
And I had a young man, just one particular young man in particular. I had been working with him, and and it's kind of like they get out of school, and it's like, okay, have a happy life. And I saw him like 2 years out of high school, and he told me, he started to tell me the things that he learned. I was like, wow,
It's stuck.
Right. No. I didn't say that.
Since then.
I
see.
I was like, you learned a lot of good stuff. I was like, man, that's cool. He was like, well, I learned all of this at the center. I was like, oh.
Glory, hallelujah. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so this stuff carries over.
Yeah.
So then I started to become a lot more intentional about not just what I'm doing right now,
Okay.
but how does that actually impact the life. So now I'm not just speaking to your situation.
Right.
I'm speaking to your family that you're gonna have. one
Yeah,
day.
exactly.
Right. So
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool that it happened accidentally, but it's also cool that you like had some reflection on that and I was able to like, oh, now I'm gonna do this intentionally. Like this was a happy accident, but now I'm like, oh, cool. This is great.
Yeah, you start seeing some of the benefits and the outcomes of things you did years ago in some cases.
Yeah.
That are lifting people up and bettering their life and therefore bettering our community.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So with you investing so many years in so many ways in youth and developing people as you do your work, what are some things that you find yourself really focusing on? And by that, I mean, I see our youth really needing help in these areas, or really needing modeling in these areas, or mentoring in these areas. What are some things you find yourself saying, I'm really focusing on those because these are the needs that I'm seeing?
Probably more, and I wouldn't even say probably, more than anything, their hearts.
Okay.
The biggest stumbling blocks that our youth are dealing with, even adults are dealing with, are issues of the heart.
Yeah.
And probably one of the biggest one is unforgiveness. So a lot when we have so we live in, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but we live in a community where
Right.
there's a lot of fatherless homes, there's a lot of broken homes, there's
Right.
a lot of disconnection.
Right.
And so and the children suffer from that. They
Right.
suffer from the
Right.
disconnection, the broken home. They suffer from the negativity that comes from that. And they're hurt.
Yeah.
They're hurting.
Yeah.
But they don't understand how that pain makes them do strange things.
Right. Or react with anger. We've talked about that before in
Yes.
the past of working with youth and the Kankakee Forgives movement that I want to hear some more about on that. But
Yeah.
that sometimes those expressions of anger are really just the hurt or a sense that nobody really cares about me.
Yes.
And I remember early on when we started meeting with some of the teens as a part of Kankakee Forgives, you had repeated that the response was really in some ways just, wow, these people that I didn't even know, they do care about us. They care about me.
Yeah.
And they don't really even know me. How cool is that?
Yeah.
And just by that alone, they were really encouraged by the volunteers that are a part of Kankakee Forgives.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so powerful
Yeah.
that they didn't even realize anybody in this community cared about them.
Yeah.
That breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're turning that around.
We are.
We're turning that around.
And helping them to see. So when we're talking about the issues of the heart, it's like helping them to see that the issues of your heart, they have a direct impact on your life right now that you probably don't see because you're sheltered and you have provision and somebody takes you everywhere you have to go, and so you're not having to fend for yourself. But down the road, this will become a stumbling block. And for many of these young people, a big part of the problem is some of the things that they experience every day that are painful have become normal. And so we have to broaden their experiences, their relational experiences, especially to help them see we're not talking about you, we're not talking about your family, we're not even talking about the community. We're just talking about this thing that's abnormal, that you need to experience it in a different way so that you know that there's a higher ground for you to get to.
It can get better.
It can get better, right?
Because in the midst of their pain or struggle with whatever's going on in their life, it would be easy for them to think, well, this is just the way my life's going to be, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
But people like you get to say, it might be what your life is today,
Right.
but here's what it could look like
Right.
in the near future and on down the road.
Yep.
And that's where there's really hope. I hope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it sounds like they're in more of a survival mode. They're not focusing. They're not able to focus on any of those things.
Right.
You
I
are
think
so right.
I think so.
And so it takes someone to come and say, I know what you're focused on, and I know it'll be hard for me to even tell you that life can be better. So I'm going to actually take you to where life is better so that you
Picture
can
it.
see that
Yes.
and experience it. It might be for a short time, but you're going to experience it. It's going to cause you to aspire for that. And then we'll come back home and talk about not only how do you create a path or find the path for you to get to what you aspire to, and how do you keep that here at home and help impact your community. So that's a part of my greatest passion.
Yeah, that's so powerful.
What's the response usually to that? Like when you're, meeting that student or kid at that point, and I mean, what's the reaction? Are they I don't know. Like, what is the reaction? Like, are they ready for it? Or are they just like hesitant? And like, no, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's a good question because the reality is, even if I could say that,
Yeah.
but I don't say that to them.
Okay.
So I usually don't tell them what the plan is.
Right.
So I just give them the experience.
Guide them.
Yep, just give them the experience, and then the way you get them to see that it can happen for their life is you put them in a situation where they're giving back, and then when they see that, as useless as I feel, I can make a difference.
Yeah. That's news to some of our
Right. And
friends
so
in the
you have a
community.
lot of these students who are hearing a lot of negative things about themselves.
Right.
And so one
Kids
of the
these days. I get tired of that phrase.
they do too.
Like I heard that when I was 16.
I'm sure, yeah.
And I'm sure they're tired of it already.
They're so tired of it.
Yeah.
And so we put them in a situation where they can see that I can actually be changed,
Yep.
and I can help somebody else change.
Right.
And that for them, like that's, I mean, community healing happens in community.
yeah.
When you can create that kind of community, a lot of healing takes place.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
that's when you see that, radiate out.
Yep.
Yeah. When you talk about healing, that's at the heart too of the movement we've referred to, Kankakee Forgives.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what are some things you've been seeing as that's been growing and rolling out across the community now for several months?
I would say the biggest thing that I've been seeing has been the warm welcome in the community to yeah, we don't need more politics.
Yes, that's right.
We don't need more programs.
Right.
We need to forgive.
Yeah. And people
That's
care
right.
about
You're
each
right.
other.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like I'm like, well, I didn't come up with the idea.
Right. I'm just spreading the good word
Right.
here.
I'm, like,
Right.
I'm just sharing what somebody shared with me. So
Right.
yeah, it's like it's so encouraging how many people are not resistant at all. It's like, yep, put two signs on that, on that side and on that side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that it's been easy for us to tell ourselves a different story.
Yes.
Yeah.
That nobody cares about this, or nobody's, people are angry and they're not going to welcome it. But it hasn't really been the case.
Right.
I mean, it's been people saying, yeah, man, we really do need some healing. We do need some forgiveness in our community. And I'm for you.
Yeah.
I don't know that y'all expected that to the degree which you've sensed that
No.
since this whole thing really got started.
It was really, I mean, I saw the impact with youth first.
Right.
As far as going community wide. But honestly, going into the community, my best guess was it would be received, but it's like
Kind of 50-50
it's
going
like,
in.
it's a roll of the dice. So we were pleasantly surprised about the warm welcome. So just a lot of people. I mean, we've seen gang members and I mean just all kinds of people saying yes.
That we would
this.
wrongly just write them off sometimes. True?
And I mean, if you think about it, I can understand why our youth are the way they are. And when I say the way they are, sometimes like almost fearful to forgive, right? Until they see the
What's the
impact of it.
catch?
Yeah.
Right.
Because we live in a cancel culture. I mean, every time, who is the next person we're going to cancel?
Yeah.
That's always the headline. It's not who's the next person we're going to forgive. So we have our community walking on eggshells, and I'm not talking about just Kankakee. But if you make one wrong move, you got one hair out of place, which I don't have to worry about that. But you got one hair out of place. I mean, they are off with your head.
Right.
So that I can't imagine that doing any less than creating a lot of fear in people's hearts.
Right. Yeah.
So I think
and
that
just discouragement.
yeah, it's very discouraging. So I believe the reason for that is because the reason that forgiveness has been so warmly accepted is because, like, yeah, I need to know that I can make mistakes too.
Right.
And there's somebody out here that'll
Right.
forgive me, you know?
Yeah.
And just somebody saying something different than cancel.
Right.
Right.
And that's that story we can tell ourselves is that nobody's going to forgive anybody.
Yeah.
And they're going to cancel me if I make a mistake. When the truth of what you've seen has been people are somewhat relieved that somebody's approaching the challenges and the struggles with saying, if we could just give each other some grace and say, even if your intent wasn't the best there, I'm not going to carry that.
Right.
And I forgive you, and I hope you'll forgive me for any wrongs that I have done. Man, when that happens, you see people's countenance in their hearts, you were referring to earlier. When we start seeing that kind of heart change, I really believe things can be different in our communities, wherever we are.
Yeah.
Could you, I feel like we got into Kankakee Forgives, but we don't really describe what Kankakee Forgives, like getting into the genesis of, we got a little bit into that, but what is it and where is it going?
Yeah, so Kankakee Forgives is a movement to reduce violence through the act of forgiving.
Okay.
Its origin happened on one night, which was supposed to be a 15-minute segment of a 4-week series. And we said that the topic tonight is forgiveness. And one of the students cursed out loud. And it was like, whoo. So
not supportive of the concept at that point. Yeah.
No, I'm gone if that's what y'all think I'm going to do, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
So that was in October.
Okay.
In May, we were still talking about it.
Whoa.
And it was so impactful. We ended up talking to it, like every student that comes into this building, we're talking to them about forgiveness.
Okay.
We had them chanting, "We must be swift to hear and slow to speak and slow to anger and always forgive." Little bitty kids,
love that.
And it changed. It changed the center. It changed how many kids came, how consistently they came, them bringing their friends. It changed the level of the number of incidents. It changed the morale of the mentors.
Wow.
It was just a blessing.
That's
It changed the number of parents that would come in the building.
Yeah.
You say, something's
Such-
going
Something-
on. Tell me
Right.
what you're telling these
My
kids.
kid hasn't had a referral all month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Such a simple concept, but a little bit harder to enable. And,
We make it too hard, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
And we helped them. We spent a lot of time, like I said, October to May, we spent a lot of time helping them process what forgiveness is and what it's not.
What does it look like even, right?
Yeah. And so that was probably the reason. That's what got us into months.
Yeah.
Because they didn't understand it. So, and most people, that's what we learned even in the community is when we say, well, what is forgiveness to you? And it's like, no, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just letting them off the hook if I forgive.
Just go let everybody out of prison. That's what forgiveness. No, that's not what we're talking about.
That's lacking accountability. That's not what we're talking about here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we gave them a healthy, fresh way that they could apply to their lives and see the benefits almost immediately. Like, you slept last night, didn't you?
Yeah.
Let it
And
go.
from that, you really created a full-blown curriculum about how to teach and train and share this message over and over again in schools or communities.
Yeah.
And forgive me if I'm wrong from a previous conversation, you're training students to train other students,
So I'm training students to give back.
Okay.
So, but with the adults, training them how to train the students.
Okay.
And to do public engagement and how to host those presentations on their own, that kind of thing.
But how empowering is that to a student at that age? Like, oh man, I wish somebody approached me at that age to be able to say, oh, here's some tools to engage the community. I'd have been like, whoa, what are you talking about?
Yeah. You mean I can help you?
I can help the community. I'm as a kid.
Right.
Yep. They get public speaking. So
That's
the students
fantastic.
do learn how to present
Okay.
and just share their story, but not to actually train others.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still giving them empowering them to do those things.
Yes.
And those stories are powerful because I remember a few months back having an opportunity to hear from 3 or 4 students at an event that you were speaking at, and they shared their journey and some of the struggles they'd had with family, with fitting in, with culture and cultures clashing, and each of them just telling the story about how they've gotten to a much better place through forgiveness.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yep. And I think what's even just as amazing is how their stories continue to morph into, like, they're like, every time I share this story, I learn more about my own story. So it's just fun to watch it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
so cool.
they're growing.
So when you're tempted to be discouraged, you've got a lot of examples to say there's reason to be encouraged.
Yes.
And it's these young people that you're working with and hearing them say, you know what, things are better.
Yep.
Because I've learned to forgive and extend grace to other people.
Yep.
In our
I
flawed
heard
nature.
someone say in leadership, they said they were talking about leadership, and they said when the city paves a road, you'll see that in a couple of weeks. You'll instantly see the impact.
Right.
But when a leader paves the road, you got to have patience, and you got to know that eventually you will see the fruit of it.
Right.
Just not a quick fix.
It's not a quick fix. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think any of us get into leadership, or whether knowingly or unknowingly, thinking, oh, I'm going to see the fruits of my labor right away. Like you're just doing it because you're like, well, this is the right thing to do. And then 5, 10, 15 years down the road, you're like, oh wow, what I've been mentoring and what I've been teaching has really, it just kind of creeps up in life. And you're like, oh, that's really neat. And it's really neat. And then it's really neat that like a lot of the interns that come here at Pathfinder, mentoring them and seeing them, kind of grow. And then they come back to me, a few years down the road, and they're like, oh, this really stuck with me. And I was like, that was not intentional. Like it was just.
I didn't think that was something that would stick, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, that's really cool though. Yeah. It's really, and it's never something I thought I would, have, being talking to anybody about it. It's really neat to see that happen, and like you said, and see the the fruits of your labor, and not that you're out there to get that. It's
an outcome,
really cool outcome.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, I had a young man come and remodel our bathroom, and so I'm just talking to him. I'm like, man, this is like, I'm always ecstatic when I see a young man this is you doing this. This is
your business
going,
right? Man.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
cool.
like, this is real cool. So I'm like, you got a family, y'all. I'm married. I got 2 children. I'm like, that's so cool.
Go, man, go.
And then so he stops because he's putting down baseboard. He stops and looks up at me. He says, "Mr. Clark, you don't remember me?" It's like,
Yeah, sure.
He said, I started this business after you helping us do carpentry in the City Life Center.
Oh wow.
He said you don't remember pounding us with entrepreneurship? I was like,
well,
I mean,
maybe. Yeah.
I'm like, wow. And you
That was
talking
you.
about some wind in your sails.
There's
And
your
I needed
encouragement.
it at that time too.
Seems like it comes when we need it the most,
yes,
right?
yes, it does.
Yeah.
It really does. That's
Yeah.
cool. Well, that answered one of the questions that I had, which was some of your proudest moments as a leader is when you see other people doing well and serving, and that's a seed that was planted a long time ago that maybe we didn't even remember, but he remembered.
Yeah.
That's the best thing. It impacted him, and it
Right.
was real right then and there. And here he is doing a project for you.
Yeah.
You didn't maybe see that.
Right.
Didn't see that
10
coming.
years
That-
ago.
Yeah, and that was just like, we need something to do this summer.
Call somebody.
And I mean, we literally
Yeah.
did it for like a month.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Changed
Yeah.
his life.
Yeah.
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 That's amazing.
Well, it's great because you can accidentally plant the seeds of negativity, but it's really great to be intentional about planting the seeds of positivity.
Right.
And like I said before, if those grow, they grow. If they don't, they don't. But just keeping that going, and that it's so powerful, and it keeps just touching all aspects of our life.
Yeah.
Yep.
So thinking about another topic I wanted to get your thoughts on here in our last couple of minutes is you help so many people think about what their future can look like. And as you think about your future, what are some things to say, hey, I've got a lot left in my tank and I would like to see some things happen. What are some of those goals or outcomes that you really hope to to see in the years ahead for Aaron?
I would say the most I would say the thing that drives me the most as far as my time is shortening here on this earth.
More behind us than in front of us for you and me anyway.
You know,
Yeah.
Is who have I empowered to do what I'm doing?
Right.
And it's like, you know, I say this, like, if I'm gone, and so in one sense, like, I would say at the center, if this center is not here and it doesn't make a difference across the street, we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so likewise, I would say if I'm gone and it doesn't make a difference,
What am I doing?
right?
Yeah.
And so the difference that I can make, and I mean, it can't stop when I die.
Right.
No.
You know what I mean? So what I'm looking for the most is who are the young people that are coming behind me, but that I feel like I can turn you loose with this.
Right.
So
Yeah. To show them something that's worth carrying forward
yeah,
without you personally
Yep.
having to deliver that somebody said, you know what? I remember a thing Aaron Clark used to say to me as a kid, and then they repeat that. And then here they are investing in their community, in their family, in their youth.
Yeah.
Then that's one of those times where I think, you know, we really can live forever in the ways that we invest and empower other people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's like really, as time has gone on, it's kind of like the net was very broad, and now it's like, nah, I need to probably tighten my circle of people that I'm spending time with to ensure
To really
that-
focus.
to really focus on that energy on going forward when I'm gone.
I love
So,
that. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's leadership.
That's leadership. Yeah.
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 The question I always like to ask, and because we wanted to make this podcast about education and helping other leaders become leaders, are there any books or podcasts or I don't know anything that inspires you as a leader and that you would want to share with other leaders?
I'm gonna give one resource. Well,
Sure.
let me see. So I'm gonna start with Leading Up.
Leading up, okay.
And that book is so important because as a leader, you're very likely to be in a situation where you have people over you that you maybe don't agree with everything.
Sure.
But you need to learn how do you as a leader lead in a way that impacts the people that are leading you.
Oh yeah, and everybody does that differently. Huh?
Right, right. So some people take leadership and they say, well, my leader is not doing this, so I'm mad and I'm quitting.
Right.
And it's like, well, if you're on a mission, if you really want to, if you love what you're doing, even if that's on a job where you're not directly impacting people, you might be directly impacting the bottom line, right?
Right.
So, and if you want to do that well and you don't necessarily like the people who are leading above you, then learn how to lead up.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good one. There's another book, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Leading on Empty.
Leading on empty. Okay.
That's a good one.
I think a lot of people are living that one, right? Too many.
Yeah, sometimes I wish I hadn't read that and then I could just...
Now you know the truth,
Now I
right?
know the truth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As far as podcasts, I'll just be all over the place.
Okay.
Like I don't have a specific one that I'm going. I'm just...
Besides
No.
this
My algorithm it always provides me a fresh set
Yeah.
of people I don't even know.
Yeah.
And I just
There you go.
listen.
No.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for sharing those books. Yeah, I'm gonna actually look those up now because
Yeah.
I think those sound fascinating.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for what you do for our community, for our young leaders that are emerging and developing around you. It sounds like every day in different ways. So thanks for that. Thanks for your time being with us today here on the podcast. We
No
enjoy the
problem.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love this. I love the idea of speaking positively and influencing leaders in our community and abroad. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm glad to be a part.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Our next episode, we will be joined by Barbie Brewer Watson, Executive Director of Economic and Community Development for the city of Kankakee.